Hi everyone, it is good to be part of this virtual event and live such a digital experience. So this is the perfect example of how technology is impacting our lives. But today I will be speaking specifically about how technology is impacting the financial industry, highlighting mainly KYB, KYC and AML compliance. So with the increase in cost, complexity, and continuous regulatory changes, companies are challenged to implement multiple systems in place, such as KYC, AML checks, sourcing and validating ownership structure, and many others. Starting with the beneficial ownership identification, in the current regulatory environment, we very rarely need to be concerned of only one owner of a company. Mostly we need to be concerned of a list of owners having a direct or indirect ownership of more than 25% or 10%, or even the ones who effectively control over the business actions. Sourcing and identifying beneficial ownerships has become more and more complicated, expensive, and challenging, not as easy as it was 10 or 15 years ago. It is very important to identify the company's connections to any possible money laundering, political exposed persons, terrorist financing, illegal arm trading, child labor, corruptions and bribery, and others. It is also very crucial to discover the ultimate beneficiary owner of an entity and identify harmful risks that can seriously damage the subject's business. So there is no common source for companies' ownership data yet, at least not a single one which covers all the business data in the world. Let's go into more details and compare different types of businesses. The reporting requirements, for example, are not the same for all the businesses. Public companies surely need to comply with certain disclosure standards. However, this is not necessarily the case for private ones. Even for private companies, there is no unified standard across various jurisdictions. Assuming that we have access to the data, there are lots of other challenges, naming few. Data can be in different languages, can be in different spellings. It can have different names, like multiple trading names for companies, or it can be even translated or transliterated differently. There are multiple ways that can help mitigate that, such as using technologies for data cleansing, or implementing machine learning algorithms and techniques. And even there are many other ways. All of this facilitates the task of sourcing, merging, cleaning, standardizing, and maintain the information. Especially in the MENA region, it has always presented challenges in regards to data. It is less readily available in different language, and in most cases, not even digitalized. Adding to this, nowadays, the main interests are on how to automate the monitoring over the amendments of a company, the news and filings, just to trigger the research that has to go in this process. The awareness around the concept of identity has changed dramatically over the past few years. Identity verification, KYC and KYB, know your customer and know your business, were once financial industry specific terminologies with strict regulatory requirements driving a high level of responsibility to prevent financial crime for both money transmitters and banks. Businesses used to meet minimum identity verification standard, not for the sake of enhancing the customer experience, but rather to meet minimum due diligence requirements and safeguard themselves from legal consequences. In fact, AML and KYC procedures have long been associated with poor customer experience and high level of resistance. Digital onboarding requires a careful mix of technology and data, and it starts the moment a customer wants to use your products and services, where the essential element of the process to be successful is the digital identity management. Many of us have experienced opening accounts with traditional institutions, which led to one of many friction points, such as either having to provide physical identification or long delays to access the account, or maybe answering the same questions multiple times. Onboarding a client might cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands, to have it done. The KYC has been introduced at the end of the 20th century. However, before that, what was called Know Your Client was a procedure guided by paper-only principle, when information was very limited and no courts or attorneys were hardly involved in that time. Today, digital onboarding has become the new normal. However, even though the KYC processes have improved over the last decade, there are still issues associated with insufficient online KYC programs. Sometimes the automated digital onboarding is not fully recognized, as there is generally uncertainty to trust the machine. A human intervention might still be required from certain regulators in many jurisdictions. The practical implementation of a comprehensible client onboarding strategy can be challenging, especially in today's environment, where both banks and their clients are attempting to acclimatize to a whole new way of working. We definitely all agree that the digital onboarding compared with the paper-based onboarding processes reduces the average time it takes to onboard a customer. The onboarding process requires identifying customers and verifying their identity with a high level of security and low level of risk, as required by KYC and AML legislation. An important role here is played by IT systems and technical solutions. 5 elements need attention according to Deloitte. These are: 1, collecting client static data and identification document, plus checking the accuracy of the information provided through different methods. 2, supporting anti-impersonation solutions to ensure financial institutions that the customers applying for the product are who they say they are. 3, verifying the customer's identity and compliance by running background checks on inputted static data. 4, using electronic signatures to ensure that a contract is duly signed between both parties, the customer and the financial institution. 5, orchestration. As they mentioned, it is a key element of the process. It makes the experience smooth and transparent for the customer who does not see all the systems used during the process. What are the regulatory burdens banks need to carry these days? Banks have a whole list of regulatory requirements, mainly related to KYC, AML, and ATF, anti-terrorism financing, all centered around figuring out who their customers are, and the cost to do all the checks needed are quite high. Much of it is involved looking at paper documents and trying to figure out if they are real or not. Financial institutions have been investigating large resources to build robust and comprehensive KYC programs that comply with regulators and AML laws. These procedures enable banks to better understand their customers, their financial dealings, and the risk associated with them. What is currently happening is that we often hear about drug dealers who convert dirty cash into clean dollar bills, or terrorist groups who launder money to finance their operations. As a result, around $1.45 trillion of the global turnaround is lost to financial crime, with bribery, corruption, and money laundering being top revenue makers. 50% of companies have been victims of financial crime. 36% of relationships are only regularly screened for criminal connections. And 4% of businesses' turnover on average is spent on customer and third-party due diligence. With an effective strategy and a clearly defined pathway, it's possible to gain a valuable competitive advantage while meeting those compliance requirements. It is the right time to work with data vendor or software solution, which has the ability to provide scalable solutions to organizations by leveraging all of these technologies, keeping in mind that trusted data has become more important than ever as the key tool to help mitigate the risk, noting that as well that due diligence measures cannot be compromised given ever increasing reports of fraud and corruption. You really have to start to either develop or acquire expertise around where to go with this. A quick overview of who we are. Cedar Rose was established in 1997. We offer risk management solution globally. We are specialized in the MENA region. We have offices in Lebanon, Cyprus, and UAE. We are known for quality and reliable business credit reports and due diligence investigations, trusted by auditors, banks, governments, investors, journalists, and more. We hold the only source of electronic identity verification for the Middle East, and we use many AI-based models for analysis and decision-making. And these are our recent awards. And thank you for your time. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and I will make sure to answer them